Hello, IB Bio students. This is Miss Kleven, and here's a short tutorial on how to do chi-square. So if you could get out your Unit 3 guided notes, so that we're covering 4.1, and if you're in HL, we're also covering 9.4. This is on communities and ecosystems. So if you could go ahead and flip your pages, right? You'll look at question number 36. This is our little quick clubbing, if you will. I'm just going to explain some of the steps. This is a little bit more basic, but you're also going to see your degrees of freedom also on that little chart. Okay? But if you could flip on over to question 37. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply this to ecology. Right? All right, so here we go. Let's start it out. First thing we need to think about when we want to carry out chi-squared on an experiment or some sort of field study, we want to think about our research question. And in this case, we want to think about, does species A associate with species B, right? Do they hang out with each other? Do they repel each other? Do they have some sort of symbiotic relationship, like a mutualistic relationship, and they come together? By looking at this mathematical equation, we can statistically figure out if there is a significance between the relationships. So that's what we're going to figure out. So the first thing you want to think about is your two hypotheses. The first one, okay, is going to be your null hypothesis. So in a null hypothesis, think of this one as neutral, right? There is no association. This is going to be completely random. So there is no association between the species. The species are completely independent, and the location of species A has no effect on the location of species B. Now there's the alternative, okay? Now alternative, in general, we want to think, yes, there is an association between these two, okay? Now there can be a positive and there can be a negative. So the positive association would be that species A is associated with species B, okay? That means that there's some sort of attraction. This could even mean maybe even a predator-prey relationship, okay? Or maybe a mutualistic relationship. Then there's going to be a negative association. Negative association is when species A does not associate with species B. This almost means that they repel. Maybe there's some sort of competition over food or even competition over species. So maybe how bears are territorial, okay? And this means that they are going to repel. Now, bears being territorial is still going to be within the same species, right? So it won't be necessarily species A versus species B, but it's just trying to give you that idea of like, oh, okay, I get you. Okay, all right, here we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to collect our data, okay? Now, as a scientist, we're going to set up some quadrants. We're going to go out into the field. This could be underwater in this case because we're looking at queen scallops and king scallops, or it could be maybe out in a forest, into a field, whatever it might be. You're going to collect data, perhaps setting up quadrants and then maybe even doing some random sampling to get some numbers to associate to your species, okay? Now this example, I'm using it from BioNinja. Absolutely love BioNinja. Cry chop, hiya, yeah? There's a great app out there also, so props to BioNinja. So if you need to make some references and see this in a slightly different way, go ahead, check out BioNinja, and this should hopefully help you. Okay? All right, so here we go. Our first little step is that we're going to collect some data. So I'm going to use a yellow colored pencil, and I'm just going to color in my number 1, okay? This is going to help me kind of make connections throughout all of our work. Okay, so now we're going to look at our little table here to figure out some numbers, okay? So let's think about queen scallop, okay? So there's going to be some quadrants that the queen is present and some that she is, sorry, I refer to the queen as, as a she species, but it's going to be both male and female. So we're going to have present, okay? Now there are going to be 6 quadrants that the queen is present. And look at this, the king scallop is also present. There are going to be 20 quadrants that the queen is present, but guess what? The king is absent. So if you add up both 20 and 26, you're going to get, 6 and 26, you're going to get 26. So 26 out of 50 quadrants, the queen is present, okay? Now the queen is going to be absent in some of these quadrants. The queen is going to be absent in 15 when the king scallop is present. And the queen scallop is going to be absent in 9 quadrants when the king scallop is absent, for a grand total of 24 quadrants that the queen is absent. So the queen is present in a total of 26 and absent in 24. If you add 26 and 24, you get 50. Same thing goes for the king. The king is going to be present in 6, so is the queen. The king is going to be present in 15, but the queen is going to be absent in those 15. That means the king is present in a grand total of 21. The king scallop is then going to be absent in 20 when the queen is present, and is going to be absent in 9 when the queen is also absent, for a grand total of 29. 21 plus 29 equals 50. So we can go ahead and say that there is 6 where they are both present. We can also say that the king is only found in 15. You can also say that the 20 squares right here, this is going to be queen only. And this 9, if you guessed it right, is going to be where neither of them. Okay, so hopefully this will help you understand this data table. Okay, now after we have our data, let's go ahead and figure out the specific null and alternative hypothesis. Okay, so this is going to be step number 2. Okay, so in step number 2, our null is going to be there is no significant difference between the distribution of these 2 species. This means it's random. And then our alternative is there is a significant difference between the distribution of the species. They are associated. Okay, those are our 2 for this problem. Our next step then is going to be to construct our contingency table. Okay, now we already collected our data. This means that we already observed multiple species, either absent or present. Okay, I went ahead and used my yellow colored pencil to kind of make the connection between collecting data and entering it into your contingency table. Okay. So the number of quadrants with the queen scallop present and the number of quadrants with the king scallop present, how many was that? So if you go up to your table, that's going to be present and present, that's going to be 6. Then if you go with queen present, king absent, so queen present, king absent, that's going to be 20. Let's go over here. The queen absent versus the king present, so let's see here, queen absent, king present, right there, 15. And then the queen absent and the king absent, so this is both of them are absent, right there, that's neither of them. Okay, so now we entered this data, woohoo, right, onto our contingency table. How fantastic. Now let's move on to our next step. In our next step, what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the frequency of both species being present. Guess what? I forgot my calculator. All right, here we go. There's my calculator. Ready to go. All right. So now we want to think about the probability of the queen scallop being present. Okay? Being present. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the total number of quadrants with the queen over the total number of quadrants. Okay? So looking back at our table, okay? Total number of quadrants. So let's see here. 20 plus 6, 26. So this is when she was present, 26. So we're going to take that 26, we're going to divide it by 50, because we had 50 total quadrants. Let's see what that equals. So 26 divided by 50 equals 0.52. Fantastic. Okay, so we took the total, that's the key word there, total number of quadrants with the queen scallops over the total number of quadrants. Okay, our next one, let's think about the king being present. So total number of quadrants with the king scallops over total number of quadrants. So let's look at the king. The king, let's see here, king present, 21. Look at that, 15 plus 9 equals, that equals 24. I was going the wrong direction. Absent. All right, so we want to go absent. I'm sorry, present. Present is going to be 21. So we're going to take 21 over our total of 50, equaling, let's do this one, 21 divided by 50 equals 0.42. Okay, now we're going to take the probability of the queen scallops, ba-doop boop, and the king scallops, ba-doop boop, and what we're going to do is we're going to multiply those two. So 0.52 times 0.42 equals. So let's see here, 0.52 times 0.42 equals, fantastic, 0.2184. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to try to figure out expect A and B counts. We're going to take the probability of the king and queen scallops, this number right here, and we're going to times it by the total number of quadrants. So this is going to be 0.2184. It's that number right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to multiply that, okay, by our total number, which is 50. So let's just take that number times 50 equals 10.92. Okay, but we're going to round this, buddy. Okay, and since this 2 is less than 5, we're going to keep the 9 the same. So we're going to keep this at 10.9. Fantastic. Okay, so now this number right here, what we can do is we can move on over. Okay, so when the number of queen scallops present, king scallops present, this is our expected, this is what we're figuring out right now, that's going to be this number right here. So let's put in 10.9. Okay, now let's go back, let's do step number 4. We're going to color that one in blue, and then we're going to come over here and say, oh, okay, all right, that was the first one we figured out. Okay, our next step is that we're going to calculate the remaining ones. So I'm going to give this one a lime green color. Over in our contingency table, I'm just going to highlight those other colors, expected, expected, expected. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to figure out those numbers. So now that we have our 10.9 in our expected, let's move on to this next expected, right? So what we're doing is we're trying to calculate the remaining expected values, knowing that your totals will not change from what was observed. Okay, so let's look at this one. So to figure out this square of our expected, we're going to look at the queen's present versus the king's absent. Remember, thinking total number of squares. Okay, so let me go just onto a scratch sheet of paper. So we're looking for queen's present. Okay, well, here's the nice thing. Very same fraction that we just used. So let's take that total number of queens present, which is our 26, divide that by 50. Okay, we just worked out this problem, and that's going to equal the 0.52. Now, the second part, okay, now remember we're doing here, is that we want to look at kings absent. Okay, so here's our kings, here's absent. So total kings absent, that's going to be 29. See what I did? So kings absent, 29. So now what we're going to do is take 29 divided by our total of 50. Okay, let's figure out what that is. 29 divided by 50 equals 0.58. Okay, now what we're going to do next step is we're going to take the 0.52 and we're going to times that by the 0.58. And that equals, so let's see here, there's the 0.58 already on there, so 0.52 then, and we get 0.3016. Our next step after we have this is we're going to times that by our total number. So 3016 times our total number of quadrants, which is 50, equals, so 0.36 times 50 total quadrants equals 15.08. Now let's round this, okay? Now we're going to have, let's see here, 15 point, that 8's higher than 5, so let's move this up to 15.1. Head back over to our contingency table, so let's take that 15.1 and plug it into here, 15.1. Now look at this coolness. So we have 10.9, 10.9, and we have 15.1. So let's add them together, 15.1, and we get, boom, 26. And if you recall, our observed, the total number was 26. One thing that you want to do is always go back and double check to make sure those two numbers match each other. Okay, all right, here we go. Let's move on to the next one. Now let's look at queen's absent. So we'll have to figure out a different fraction here versus king's present, which we figured out in our very first step. So let's figure out this one right here. So queen's absent. All right, so let's look up here. So queens, looking at queens, absent, total number 24. Okay, so let's move my little sheet of paper up a little bit. Okay, so we're going to take, actually, scratch that. Let's go 24 divided by 50, total quadrants, so 24 divided by 50 equaling 0.48. Second part here, though, let's see, here's king's present. We figured this out on our first one. So if you recall, this was that total number of 21 divided by 50. If you want me to look at that real quick, so we're looking at king's present. So look at king, present, boop, 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 boop. You have a total of 21. Okay, so that's where that 21 came from. Divide those two out. This was on our first fraction. Divided by 50 equaling 0.42. Now we're going to multiply both of these, so 0.48 times 0.42 equaling times 48 equaling 0.216. Okay, this number then, what are we going to do? Multiply it by the total number of quadrants, so 0.2016 times our total, which is 50, now equals, boom, 10.08. And what are we going to do? Round that to 10.1. Where's this going to go? Right here, 10.1. So that's our expected now. Okay. Last little square we're going to figure out. Right here, queen's absent and king's absent. So the first one we're going to figure out, queen's absent. So let's look, queen's absent, total number 24. So take that 24 divided by 50. So let's go 24 divided by 50 equaling 0.48. And then our second part here is the king's absent. So if we go up here, look at king's absent, total number 29. Ooh, kings. 29, then divided by our total number of quadrants. So 29 divided by 50 equals 0.58. Then multiply both of these, so 0.48 times 0.58 equaling 0.48 equals 0.2784. And what are we going to do with this number? Multiply it by the total number of quadrants, so 0.2784 times our total number of 50 equaling, dun, 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 13.92. Okay, round this. Okay, so we're going to round that then to 13 point, ooh, 2 is less than 5, so let's keep that 9, 13.9. 13.9. Let's add these two up. So 15 plus 9 equals 24. And then 10.1 plus 13.9 equals Hooray! Oh gosh, doesn't that make you super excited when you see those match up? Yeah, awesome sauce, okay? Fantastic, look at this. Perfect, okay? So now we have both our observed and our expected for all of our quadrants right now, okay? Next step. This is gonna be step number 6, okay? In step number 6, I'm gonna just go ahead and I'm gonna color this one in red, okay? So what we wanna do is we wanna calculate chi-squared. So if we look back at our contingency table, our chi-squared is right there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and color all of these red so we know that we have to figure out these 4 boxes in our contingency table, okay? Now if you recall, to figure out your chi-square, okay, here's our symbol for chi-squared, and our equation is going to be the sum of our observed minus our expected squared divided by our expected, okay? So to figure that out, let's look at our very first one. So our very first one, okay, let's look at these ones right here. So we're looking at queen's present, king's present, okay? So our observed is 6. So let's go 6 minus our expected, which is 10.9. We're gonna square that and then divide it by our expected, which is the 10.9. Okay, let's figure that number out real quick. So that's, oopsies, clear everything. So 6 minus 10.9 is negative 4.9. So let's square that. And then what we're going to do is divide it by our expected, which is 10.9, equaling, I'm going to use a different, I didn't bring it over another pen. So that's going to be, oh, fantastic. So 2.20, ooh, yep, that 2 is definitely lower than 5. So let's keep this as 2.20, okay, right there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add that, because remember, we're looking for the sum. Let's figure out our next one. So our next one is going to be these two here. So we're looking at queen's present and king's absent. So first thing that we want to do is we want to take our observed, which is 20. And we're going to go 20 minus our expected, which is 15.1. Put that in parentheses, square that, buddy. And then we're going to divide by our expected. Our expected is 15.1. Let's figure that out. So 20 minus 15.1, then let's square it, and then divide it by our expected, which is 15.1. Hooray! Is 1.5. Let's look at that next number. 0 is less than 5, so let's stick with 1.59. Perfect. I'm just going to circle that. Okay. Next one. Let's figure out this right here. Okay. So queen's absent versus king's present. First thing you want to do, observed. Observed is 15. So 15 minus our expected, which is 10.1. Square it. Divided by our expected, which is 10.1. Let's figure this one out. So 15 minus 10.1, then square that, then divided by our expected 10.1, equaling, ooh, this one's a little bit trickier. So 2.37, now that 7 is higher than 5, so let's change this 7 right here, bump it up to an 8. So let's go with 2.38. Fantastic. Circle that. Okay. And then our very last one. Okay. So we're going to try and figure out this square right here. So queen's absent versus king's absent. Okay. So let's figure out, let's see here. So first thing we want to do is take our observed, which is 9. 9 minus our expected, 13.9, square that, sorry, going off the page a little bit, divide it by then our expected, which is 13.9. Fantastic. So let's do 9 minus 13.9, and then let's square it, And then let's divide it by our expected 13.9 equaling 1.727. Ooh, once again, let's bump this 2 then up to a 3. So 1.72 and circle it. Okay. Now, crazy me, I kind of got so excited. I should have been plugging each one of these in. So if you recall, our very first one was the 2.20. So let's just write that into that box. I got so excited about putting my more math in there. So then 1.5, that was going to be this box right here. And then our 2.38 was this one right here. And then our last one is the 1.72. Okay. Now, the nice thing about chi-squared is that we want to figure out the sum. So it's each one of these added together. Okay. Now, the nice thing is that we can even do this in our box. Okay. So let's see here. Let's take, let me just clear my calculator, the 2.20 plus the 1.59 equals 3.79. So that's both of those together. Then let's go over here and add these two. So this is 2.38 plus 1.72 equaling 4.1. Okay. Fantastic. So if we take the first number, the 3.79, and let's add 4.1 equals, okay, so therefore our chi-squared is going to be 7.89. Oh yeah, baby. How awesome is that? Okay. Fantastic. Oopsies. I think I made a teeny tiny mistake. Remember when we were to have this one here and we were supposed to round it up? Crazy me. So this should actually be 7.90. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Fantastic. Sorry that I made that little mistake. I even told you guys. Apologies. Okay. All right. So here we go. Fantastic. All right. Moving on to then our last few steps. Okay. Fantastic. I wonder if I should just add these up real quick. Let's just put these numbers over here. So this 21 here came for this 21. This 29 right here, and then our grand total of 50 in those squares right there. Okay, perfect. All right, so here we go. Let's look at our degrees of freedom. Okay, so to figure out your degrees of freedom, what you're going to do is you're going to take your row minus 1 and your columns minus 1. So let's look at our rows minus 1. So how many rows do we have? Here's one row, here's your second row. So we had number of rows, which would have been 2. We're going to minus 1. And then we're going to times that by the number of columns. We had 1 column and 2 columns, right? So 2 columns minus 1 equals, so 1 times 1 equals what? Our degree of freedom is 1. Okay, so here we go. Let's figure out the critical chi-squared value. Okay, now let's just use the degree of freedom of 0.05. So we want to see if it's within that 5%. A degree of freedom, we just figured out, equals 1. Okay, therefore, let's figure out what our critical chi-squared is. So if we look back at our degree of freedom table, so we had 5 and then 1. So let's see here, degree of freedom is 1. And let's go to that 5 right there, boom, 3.841. So that was going to be 3.841. All right, that is our degree of freedom, okay? So if you were to imagine a graph, right, okay, that right there, that's our critical value. That is the 3.841, okay? Now our chi-squared, I'm just gonna use this color right here. Our chi-squared is right there, probably at about 7.90, okay? Ooh, it's larger, okay? So here we go. If the calculated, so our calculated chi-square is greater than the critical, accept the alternative hypothesis. There is an association. Now, if your calculated is less than the critical, so it had to be smaller than this number, then you accept the null, okay? Now, our calculated chi-squared is larger than our critical, so we are going to accept the alternative hypothesis. So there is an association, okay? So if you want to think of it this way, 7.90, that is our calculated chi-squared, is greater than 3.841, okay? That would be our critical value. So we are going to accept, okay? Therefore, there is an association between the king and the queen scallops. There you go. That is how you do chi-squared. So I hope this video was helpful. Sorry for the length, but I hope that it helps just a teeny tiny bit more. There you go. And I super apologize about the crazy screw up. Whoopsies. Lots of loves, hearts and sparkles.